The kitchen was quiet except for the faint ticking of the wall clock. John sat at one end of the wooden table, his hands resting loosely around a steaming cup of coffee that had long gone cold. His eyes kept drifting to the chair across from him. 3 years ago, that seat had been filled by his wife, her laughter spilling into the room like sunlight. Now, it sat empty, carrying the weight of everything he had lost. Tonight, that seat should have belonged to Emily, the 8-year-old foster girl who had arrived 2 days ago. He had spent the afternoon cooking a simple dinner, mac and cheese, just the way the foster agency said she liked it. He'd even set out a small glass of chocolate milk, hoping it might make her feel welcome. But Emily never came down. Somewhere upstairs, behind a closed bedroom door, she was keeping her distance, locked in her own world. John understood, trust wasn't built in a day. Still, the silence hurt more than he cared to admit. He let out a slow sigh, the kind that seemed to carry the weight of years. Reaching forward, he picked up the untouched plate and placed it gently on the counter, as if not to disturb the fragile air of the moment. A part of him wanted to knock on her door again, but another part knew she needed time. So, he sat back down, staring at the empty chair, wondering if it would ever feel full again. Upstairs, the air in Emily's small bedroom felt heavy. She sat cross-legged on the bed, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit, its fur matted from years of holding on too tight. The room was warm, but she kept her jacket zipped all the way up, as if ready to leave at a moment's notice. Her backpack, small, faded, and patched in places, sat neatly by the door. She never unpacked in new homes. Experience had taught her that she wouldn't be staying for long. A faint knock came, soft enough that she could pretend not to hear. John's voice followed, gentle but uncertain. "Dinner's ready, Emily." She stayed still, eyes fixed on the shadow the lamp cast against the wall. The silence stretched, and eventually, his footsteps faded away. When she finally opened the door a crack, there was no one in the hallway, just a small plate on the floor, a few cookies arranged neatly in the center. She stared at them for a long moment, unsure whether to take them. Downstairs, John sat back at the table, resisting the urge to push. He knew she was guarding herself, holding on to invisible walls she'd built over years of moving from one foster home to another. Forcing her to open up would only push her further away. So, he did the only thing he could, he left the cookies as a quiet reminder, someone was here, waiting, and wouldn't give up on her. By morning, winter had tightened its grip on the small town. A heavy snowstorm swept through the streets, leaving cars buried and sidewalks glazed in ice. John was halfway through shoveling the driveway when his phone rang. It was the school. Emily had left her gloves at home and was standing outside during recess. Without hesitation, he grabbed the thick wool gloves he'd bought for her and slid into his truck, tires crunching over the frozen ground. The drive was slow, the world outside blurred by falling snow, but he pushed on, his breath clouding the windshield. When he arrived, the schoolyard was nearly empty, save for a few children huddled in groups. Emily stood alone by the chain-link fence, her small hands tucked into her sleeves, her shoulders hunched against the cold. Her breath came in quick, white puffs, and her lips trembled. John stepped out, the cold biting through his coat. Without a word, he knelt in front of her, holding out the gloves. She hesitated, eyes flicking from the gloves to his face, unsure why he'd gone through all this trouble. "Hands," he said softly, his voice warm despite the icy air. She slowly extended them, and he slid the gloves over her fingers, patting them gently. "No one should have cold hands," he murmured. For the first time, Emily looked straight at him. It wasn't a smile, not yet, but her eyes softened, and something in her guarded expression began to shift. That evening, the storm still howled outside, rattling the windows, but inside the house the fire cast a gentle orange glow across the living room. John sat on the couch, the TV murmuring quietly in the background, a half-empty mug of tea warming his hands. He wasn't really watching, his mind kept drifting to the small bedroom upstairs. Then, he heard the faint creak of the staircase. Emily appeared at the edge of the room, her hair a little messy, her eyes darting around as if testing the space. Without saying a word, she made her way to the far end of the couch, curling up with her knees to her chest. She didn't sit next to him, just close enough to share the warmth of the fireplace. On the coffee table sat a jar of cookies, the same kind he'd left outside her door the night before. John didn't speak. He simply reached forward, slid the jar toward her, and leaned back. Emily hesitated, then reached in and took one, nibbling at it in small, cautious bites. Minutes passed in comfortable silence, the crackle of the fire filling the room. John fought the urge to fill the quiet with words. He knew this wasn't the moment for questions or advice. Instead, he let the silence work, trusting it to build something fragile but real. Emily's shoulders slowly lowered, her body relaxing. It wasn't trust yet, not fully, but for the first time, it felt like they were sitting in the same world. It happened in the quiet hours before dawn. John was asleep when the sound of hurried footsteps pulled him from a dream. His bedroom door creaked open, and there she was, Emily, her face pale, her eyes wide with the shimmer of unshed tears. She clutched her stuffed rabbit like a shield. Without a word, she crossed the room and climbed onto the bed, trembling. John sat up, startled, but instinct took over. He wrapped the blanket around her small frame and held her close, his hand gently rubbing her back. "It's okay," he whispered, his voice low and steady. "You're safe now. I've got you." She didn't answer at first, just buried her face against his chest, her breathing shaky. Minutes passed, the only sound a faint howl of wind outside. Then, in a voice so small he almost missed it, she said, "Thanks, Dad." The word hit him like a lightning strike, unexpected, overwhelming, and beautiful. He felt his throat tighten, his eyes burn. He didn't dare speak right away, afraid his voice would break. So he just held her tighter, letting the moment breathe. That single word carried a lifetime of meaning. It wasn't just a name, it was trust, it was acceptance, it was the start of a real family. As she drifted back to sleep in his arms, John knew one thing for certain: family wasn't about blood. It was about showing up, every single day, until love felt safe enough to be spoken out loud.